here for you.
Right? Don't complain.
Don't complain. Kevin and I couldn't find it either. Some birthdays for you. We've got Dakota Fanning, Emily Blunt, Josh Gad, Skylar Gray, Niecy Nash, Damon, John. And that's what's happening.
It's the Kevin and Bean Show. K-Rock.
We do phone topics from time to time to get your experiences, and you never let us down. K-Rock audience always has an experience with whatever we're talking about. And in this particular case, we're going to talk to, you were talking, it doesn't have to be smack, but it's best if it was, to somebody, and you didn't realize that you were talking to that celebrity. Mm-hmm. So being you had one where you weren't really talking smack, but sort of.
I sort of was.
Sort of backhand, yeah.
I kind of was. And by the way, it could just be you found out after a disagreeable encounter that the person you were talking to was a celebrity. Like, it might have changed things if you'd have known going into, fighting somebody at a supermarket to get the last banana. Good example. Real good example.
Great example. Real good.
I paused.
Wow.
I paused it in my mind. I thought I'm going to end up in a file if I don't come up with something.
Don't you ever pause.
And what I came up
with the bad example
was racing for that last banana, because you know how often you go to a supermarket, there's just one banana left.
Just that one banana, because people leave that one banana all the
time.
Because
we live in Moscow in the 40s.
And then you lock eyes. You lock eyes with guys across the store, and you go, "It's on," and you just start running.
Break out your shibs.
I don't know why that was my example. But anyway, so you don't know that a celebrity is involved in the equation, and it might have changed things. And the story that Kevin is referencing, I told last week on the air. It came up when we were talking about Frank Ocean's new song, which is a cover of Moon River from the movie back in the early 1960s starring Audrey Hepburn. Andy Williams is the guy who had the big hit record with that at the time. And when I was working in retail back in my Washington, D.C. record store days, a couple came in looking for the Andy Williams Christmas tape. And I, looking up and down the wall trying to find his tape, and I said, Andy Williams, and I'm a kid, right? Andy Williams, is that dude dead or alive? I mean, what's that story? I hadn't heard about him in so long. I just assumed he was dead or something like that. And the lady who was with the man in the store said, "This is Mr. Williams, and he's doing fine." And he was standing right there, 4 feet away from me, to see this punk-ass kid not know who he was, or that he was still alive, or that the guy had sold like 100 million records or anything like that. I just felt like an ass. And it turns out, to make it even worse, he was in town because he was performing at the White House that weekend for the Reagans at a Christmas party. And he just wanted to refresh himself with his Christmas music so that he knew the songs and the arrangements that he was going to perform.
You did the right thing.
I didn't do the right thing. I was so embarrassed.
That's what I meant. You didn't do the right thing.
I was so... But that's a perfect example of you say something out loud and you don't realize the celebrity that you're mocking is right there within earshot, right?
Mike Catherwood, you have one?
I got the fear. Driving down Sunset Boulevard, I was going to a restaurant on Sunset, and I had to go, and I had to go now. Mm-hmm. And so I'm weaving in and out of traffic, going in the wrong lane. I get to the restaurant, I throw my keys at the valet and run into this restaurant bathroom, and there's only one stall. Mm-hmm. There's one urinal, one stall. Mm-hmm. Someone's in the stall.
Uh-oh. Right?
So I start hitting the door. I was like, dude... And if you're done, please get out. I look underneath the thing to see if there's even anyone in there. Mm-hmm. And there is a guy, no pants around his ankles, just shoes, facing towards the toilet. So I'm like,
so he could be using the urinal.
He's probably doing pee-pee. And I was like, dude, please, you can go in.
Who puts the accent on the second pee?
I don't know. So I'm hitting and I was like, dude, I can see you're not pooping. Get out right now! I'm going to have an accident!
Clearly, you're in need far more than he is.
Exactly.
The fear.
This guy from behind me goes, hey, hold on! I was here first! I was like...
Technically, he's right, but...
I was like, dude, if you don't get out of there quickly, I'm going to have an accident, and then I'm going to kick your ass. Oh. I'm talking major smack. Mm-hmm. I was like, and now I'm kicking the door. I was like, dude, come on! Really I'm a major ass.
Right. And the poor guy's in there just trying to go pee.
Yes, that's right. All he needed to do was pee. Dude unlocks the door.
Yeah.
And out walks Trey Cool of Green Day.
Oh, nice. So you weren't necessarily like Bean asking if he was still alive, but you were threatening to kick his ass.
I wasn't talking crap about Green Day, but I was definitely talking crap to him, and I was prepared to throw down right there and have an accident at the same time. But if I knew that one of the most members of one of the most seminal punk bands on earth was there, I would have very nicely asked.
You would have asked very differently.
Yes. I felt very horrible.
Mr. Trey,
Allie, how about you? You got one?
Well,
Mr. Trey, can you pee someplace else?
I was a very young child on a flight, and I was seated next to this man and this woman, and I was stoked because I loved this man so much. He was a big guy back in the 80s where he would smash watermelons with a hammer.
Oh.
Gallagher, right?
Sure, yeah. Sure.
Like
Very
as
famous
a little
and popular comedian back then.
As a little kid, you're like, this is huge. He gets up to use the restroom, and I turned to his wife and I said, what is it like to be married to Gallagher? And then I hear a gasp from my parents. And they're like, oh, no. To which his wife, like, wells up. She's trying so hard not to cry, laughing. And no one's really saying anything. He comes back, sits back down, and she says, honey, she'd like to know what it's like to be married to Gallagher. And this man laughed a laugh I've never heard because it was David Crosby. Oh! Yes. My parents were like, they were mortified. They're like, we raised you better than this.
No.
But how would I know as a little kid?
Right.
Like, really? My house? I didn't know it yet.
By the way, I love that his wife
Died.
held on to that
Died.
and then delivered it to him.
Couldn't wait.
That's pretty strong.
Couldn't wait.
That's funny.
That's
all right,
great.
let's take your calls. 1-800-520-1067. As always, here on the Kevin and Bean Show, that's the number to call or text. And why don't we take one before the break, and let's make it our friend Rachel. She's in L.A. She's on line one here today.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. What's your story?
Okay, so I was in this vintage shop on Melrose, super eclectic, really expensive store.
Yep.
And it was in the 80s. There was a girl at the counter, and I loudly said, look at this chick trying to look like Madonna.
Oh, no.
She slides her credit card to the cashier. He looks down at the credit card and then just looks up slowly with his mouth open in amazement.
Oh, no.
And I just go, oh, whatever. That's Madonna. And I just left it on the store.
So you left the store?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you
It
didn't
was
really,
kind of like a
technically, you
small
didn't say
store, and I
anything
said it
bad.
really
You just said she
loud.
was trying to look like Madonna, right? I mean, you were accurate.
Well,
Right, but she
it
said
was
it-
accurate, but also kind of bitchy about
But you
it.
said it with disgust, right, Rachel?
Yeah.
There was some disgust in your voice, I assume.
Pretty much.
Yeah. All right.
That's awesome.
Pretty much.
All right.
Good
Thank you
times.
for the story. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. 1-800-520-1067. You talked smack about or to a celebrity and then found out that was the person you were talking about. We'll take your calls next on K-Rock.
Kevin and Bean on K-Rock, KROQ.
Let's try line 5. Let's say hi to Harrison in San Diego, talking about an ugly encounter with a celebrity, but you didn't know it was a celebrity until it was too late. Harrison, welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, y'all. How y'all doing?
We are good. Thank you.
So, Taste of Chaos, awesome concert down in San Diego. Got tickets. Had a 6-pack of Sparks, so I was super hopped up. And young Marines were with me, and we ran into a guy in a Alpha jacket, Marine Corps dress uniform. And we said, hey, you should not have that on. And I said, I will help you take that off in not polite words.
Right.
And apparently he had 5 bodyguards, and I had no idea who this guy was, so I called him a whole bunch of names, and turns out it was Jared Leto.
It's Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Still don't like him. I'll turn the radio off every time I hear him.
So your problem was that he was wearing a Marine Corps jacket as a fashion accessory and he hadn't served.
Absolutely. Back in the day, I was young, and
You were all hopped up, it sounds like.
I can see that, though. I can see the
I
anger for
was
that.
asked.
I can see
But
that.
the security that was running the concert was all Marines, so I didn't really get in trouble.
Oh, okay. All right. Dear Kevin and Bean, I was in line at the movies to buy tickets. I saw a sign for Jingle All the Way. Okay, this one's going back a few years, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad, saying, free popcorn with a ticket to this movie. I started loudly ragging hard on the movie and Sinbad, saying, I feel so bad for Arnold for doing such a crappy movie with such crappy actors that they have to give away free popcorn just for people to see it. Well, you can imagine where this story is headed. Sinbad turned out to be in line 2 people behind him, hearing every word, giving him the stink eye. Of course, he ended up in the same theater as me, so I had to endure the embarrassment for over 2 hours as he sat a couple of rows behind me the whole movie. Look, Sinbad knew what he was doing.
Right.
The Jingle All the Way. That's not on you, sir.
I mean, that person did the right thing.
But we're taking your calls at 1-800-520-1067. You said something about or to a celebrity, not knowing it was the celebrity. Let's get back to your calls. Let's start with, let's go to Wendy, please. Line 3. Wendy is calling us from N. Oh, Denver. She's calling us from Denver. Holy moly. Streaming the show. Hey, Wendy, what's going on?
Hey, party people.
Hi there.
Hi, Allie.
Hi.
So you're...
back in 2000.
Go ahead.
Back in 2000, I was at a freestyle motorcycle event, and I was sitting there with a friend of mine. Her husband was one of the mechanics for one of the motorcycle riders down in the pit. So we had some pretty good seats. And I noticed like a crowd of kids coming up to the guy sitting in front of us in the bleachers. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, don't you know who that is? That's Travis Pastrana. I was like, who? She's telling me who he is. And I think he's like 15, 16 at the time. And so I was joking around, and I was being a smartass and said, oh, we're sitting behind Madonna, and I didn't even know it. And he heard me and turned around and looked me right in the eye and then kind of smirked and went back to signing autographs. But I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world, too, and one of the biggest stars in the history of his sport. He doesn't need to be mocked by a punk-ass kid, Wendy.
I know. It's pretty embarrassing.
All right. Thanks for the call. Appreciate that. Let's try line 7, please. It's going to be Megan calling us from San Dimas. This is, I'm surprised we haven't gotten more calls like this where it's just, it's a famous person, but you're not sure which one it is. What happened, Megan?
So a few years ago, I was at the Hollywood Bowl seeing Incubus, and I left my seat to go get a beer. So I'm in line, and I'm like annihilated at this point. And I'm super drunk, and I see this guy in front of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Adrian from No Doubt. And I'm telling everyone around me, that's Adrian. He dated Gwen Stefani. Don't you know?
Uh-oh.
And I'm going,
Whoa. You just got those stories mixed. You what?
And I'm sorry?
So you got the stories mixed.
Yeah, so I'm going, and I keep saying, like, that's Adrian. I'm telling everybody that will listen to me. And I'm slurring my words, and he's, like, rolling his eyes. He's giving me dirty looks. I'm like, look at him. He thinks he's so cool. He's rolling his eyes and giving me dirty looks. And he finally looks at me dead in the eye, and he goes, my name is Tony from No Doubt. I'm not Adrian. Stop saying that.
Oh. Again, probably one of the nicest humans in the world.
One of the most genuinely nice people in the world.
Yeah,
oh,
I
Megan.
asked him to take a photo with me, and he's like, yeah, of course I'll take a photo
Right?
with you.
You're crazy to ask him, but I'm glad that he did.
I was drunk.
Tony's too good for this world, Megan. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. All right, let's try another Wendy. This one's line 2, please, up next on the Kevin and Bean Show.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi. So I worked at Starbucks. I was super pregnant. I had a really long day. And this guy asked me for the passcode for the bathroom. And, he's kind of like, hey, like, kind of like in a cool manner. And I was like, being really snooty about it. And I'm like, oh, the passcode is this. And he's like, can you repeat that again? I'm like, oh, the passcode is this. And as I'm leaving, I find out it's Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler?
And I've been wanting, it was Adam Sandler. And I've been needing to meet him forever, and I was like, I'm so
Wait, so you just gave him the passcode without even looking up to see who it was?
No, not even.
I got you. Because you were pregnant and
so-
tired.
Pregnant brain.
Yeah.
It happens.
Especially if you're carrying a huge baby.
Yeah. You have to
And I
tell
even
me.
had, like, the decency to afterwards be like, can I take a picture with you?
You did or
Oh, my
didn't?
gosh.
I did.
You did. Wow.
No shame. Our listeners have no shame.
I respect it.
I respect it as well. Thank you.
It's the Kevin and Bean Show, the world famous K-Rock. Radio.com. Radio.com.
I'm a little bit nervous we're going to screw this up. Tessa is so much smarter than we are, you guys.
Oh, well, that's true of all of our guests,
She's
isn't
a
it?
physicist, you guys.
I know. She's a
Yes.
physicist. That's right. In Annihilation, new movie opening everywhere today, but everything has been coming up Tessa Thompson's way in recent years. Everything from Westworld to Creed to Thor Ragnarok. And as we mentioned, Annihilation opening up this weekend. We're very excited to welcome Ms. Tessa Thompson to the Kevin and Bean Show for the first time. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. Good morning.
Welcome.
We
Thanks for
appreciate
having
you
me.
coming on. You're a physicist in annihilation. You should be smart enough to not go into that swamp. That's what I'm telling you right off the bat, Tessa.
Yeah, I know. Considering that no team has come back from the Shimmer and from Area X, I know it's not maybe the wisest decision to go in there. But, I think that's the thing about scientists. They're ever curious. She has to know what's inside.
You also don't have a great movie without people that are dumb enough to go back into where they shouldn't go back in.